Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being with us for our closing reading of the South Carolina Academy of Authors Induction Weekend here in Beaufort. Welcome or welcome back to our Pat Conroy Literary Center. It's been a tremendous joy to host this event here in Beaufort again, and this particular weekend to induct our friends Marcus Amaker, Billy Baldwin, Harlan Green, and Ann Head. And today we get to feature some new and upcoming writers who may one day be inducted into the Hall of Fame as well. That's always a welcome possibility. Since Marcus was not able to be with us in person here in Beaufort, we have been honoring him in his absence by beginning each session with a reading by some of our talented local poets and also Tim Conroy. And we're going to invite Jackie Mark. It's funny the second time. It's funny every time. Every time it works. Yes. Yesterday, for those of you who were with us at the library, we invited Jackie Markham to read, and she did so beautifully, but not in a way which was recorded. So I've asked Jackie to come and do an encore reading here for us to begin this afternoon's program. So Jackie, come on up, please. Please welcome her, everybody.
So I'm reading from Hold What Makes You Whole by Marcus Amaker, and now I had to make a decision whether I wanted to read the one from yesterday, but I had several picked out, so I'm going to share a different one, and it's called Someone Will Tell You to Step Outside of Your Comfort Zone, but sometimes you need to be reminded that it's okay to see the beauty of your own boundary. Stay inside and notice the way the sunlight cuddles your bed. Call it a spell. Pay attention to the sorcery of a family recipe. Rewind your tongue and refresh its memory. If your heart is heavy, that's okay. Change will not happen today. Close your eyes and forfeit your internal revolutionary war. Be a prisoner to your own style of comfort, and in the process, remember who you are. Water the plants. Lay low in a culture obsessed with rising. You deserve to indulge in self-love and remain faithful to a memory's grace. Go back to where you started. That's where the magic happens. Thank you, Marcus Amaker.
Jo Angela Edwards.
Yes.
Welcome to our Conroy Center. The floor is now yours.
Thank you. This is a beautiful space. I've actually never been to Beaufort until this trip. I don't know how I'm a native South Carolinian and I have never been to Beaufort. So I love it. It's gorgeous. It's got all the beauty and charm of Charleston without quite as much traffic. Yesterday was a little trafficy, but not quite as much traffic. So it's I love it. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to figure out a way to get back here this summer. So if my bank account lets me. But I wanted to echo what Jonathan said and welcome everybody here to the South Carolina Academy of Authors Elizabeth Boatwright Coker Fellowship and Student Award winner reading to honor our 2024 Fellowship and Student Award winners. This year was a year of challenges and joys with regards to our Fellowship and Student Award submission process. Challenges being largely technological and overcome by our collaboration with Hub City Writers Project. And they were godsends, thank goodness, because submittable can be annoying. I'd never worked with it from the administrator's end, and it was giving us all kinds of problems. But thankfully, the folks at Hub City figured it out, tweaked some things, and we were able to get going. And I hope we can continue that partnership because that is one reason I believe that we got such a large number of entrants this year, which was fabulous. And a nice balance between fellowship entrants and student award entrants. We had not had a very healthy participation in students submitting in the last few years, and boy, did that change this time, and we're really happy about that. So we had a total of 84 folks submit across the 4 contests. 82 of those were eligible. So with the robust student submissions and the robust fellowship submissions, our judges had a lot to do. And I want to give some shout out thanks to those judges. Our poetry judge was Ashley Mace Havard, who is a South Carolina native but now lives in Louisiana. Our fiction judge was Valerie Sayers, who is a South Carolina native and I believe has a home around here, but she lives mainly in Indiana. Of course, our judges always have to be out-of-state judges. And they judge blindly, of course, and they had great things to say. Ashley Mace Havard in particular raved about all of the poetry submissions and how strong they were this year. So she had a tough job. However, Valerie had a tougher job because we all know that fiction is longer, and she had 41 stories to read in the space of 4 weeks. Bless her heart. Thanks to those robust submissions. I did want to extend some more thanks. Bear with me. I know listening to someone say thank you a lot is probably not the way you wanted to spend your Sunday afternoon, but there are a lot of people to thank. Big thank you to Jonathan for everything he's been doing around here. Thank you as well to Leslie, who was part of the regional coordination team for this particular induction weekend. I want to thank Aida Rogers, who was very willing to help me out when I thought I might not be able to be here at the relative last minute, and she was willing to pinch hit for me. Thankfully, she didn't have to do that, but because I hate to heap last minute work on people. It's no fun. But she's also a member of the fellowship committee, and I appreciate all that the fellowship committee does to help me out with this process. The other member who was not able to be here this weekend is Daniel Cross Turner. He did this previously. He was the coordinator of the contest previously, and he answered probably about 3 million questions that I ended up having to ask him over and over again. He was always very polite in answering those questions. So, should also thank current board president Wilma Irvin and past president Mary Beth Evans, who also helped me figure out how to handle some of the technological challenges in terms of who should we turn to. So I appreciate that. And Betsy Teeter, who, because she suggested Hub City, made the connections for us. So it takes probably an entire country. So just wanted to let you all know that. I also should send out a huge thanks to the family of Elizabeth Boatwright Coker, who was a South Carolina novelist, the person who our awards is named for. She was an author of 9 historical romance novels and a native of the PD, which is where I now live, so I always have to give it a shout out. Her family has chosen to endow both the fellowship and student awards, and as such, they are providing rewards and encouragement for the furtherance of literary arts in the future in South Carolina. But today is about celebrating our writers. I'm going to introduce each winner and give them a chance to read from their work after I give them their certificate. I'm going to start with the writer who could not be here, and that is our fiction fellowship winner, Penny Zhang. Penny Zhang wrote a story called Woody Guthrie is My Grandfather. The title alone probably is award worthy. It's a darkly comic story about a Baltimore bar owner who is caught between helping her sister care for her mother, who's dying of Huntington's disease, and running a family bar, an experience that has taught her how to defend the weak with baseball bats and broken bottles. Valerie Sayers said, Woody Guthrie, as my grandfather, has an immediately engaging narrative voice. It faces down a frightening disease with soulful wit and style. Penny Zhang is a Baltimore native who is an author and English professor at Greenville Technical College. She graduated from West Virginia University with an MFA in creative writing, fiction emphasis. She's published work in journals such as Potomac Review, Pank, and New Ohio Review. Her debut novel, Doll Parts, will be published by Source Books in 2025. She currently lives in Greenville with her husband and son. The student award winner in fiction is Ava Gartman. Her story, Alma, is a tale set in a brutal London of the past that follows the mysterious labors of its titular character who transports a dark cargo along the Thames in a dangerous game that turns even darker by the end of the story. Valerie Sayers said, Alma is suffused with a mysterious mood and steadily building tension. It cleverly bends genre conventions to its own purposes. Ava was born and raised in Greenville and is a student at USC Columbia. She says her spare time is consumed by agonizing over any random 3 sentences. So please welcome to the podium Ava Gartman.
All right. So I didn't print this out, so you'll be seeing me struggle to read this off of the PDF on my phone. Also read a shortened version. I will not read the whole short story to you guys. Okay. A day in London was a perpetual act of surrender. It was a place of little variation save for shape. Every street could be simplified to one description, uneven rows of bent brown rectangles flanking long, winding strips of gray. Smooth, wet stone blended into rough, dry wood. Everything hung suspended in the gray-brown pall, like a newspaper left to drift in the river, ink blooming out of legibility. Morning was different. It was singular. It was intentional. She had a feeling about today, a good feeling, for once. Months and months of waiting had led to this last job. The early hue of the sunrise warmed her face in a fleeting orange glow. She patted the pocket of her apron, comforted by the dull outline of the knife concealed within. Alma. She circled to face the voice. The voice's owner seemed to understand that this small movement was the only acknowledgement that he would receive. Her brother Charles was late. He was habitually late, falling into delay like rain to the ground. His thin frame trembled with heaving breaths from running, presumably, all the way here. As he crouched low to collect himself, Alma noticed the creases descending the seams of his sleeves. He had slept in these clothes. Again. Still, if she didn't need his help with the boat, she would have left long ago. Charles knew this and had the good graces to appear properly ashamed. What have you got today? He was talking to himself. They both knew it, but he insisted on speaking to her regardless. She shifted the woven basket in her hand. It was heavy, as always, but it felt like it grew heavier the longer she remained still. He peppered her with questions. Spanish gold? You look strained. Is it heavier than gold? A cannonball? Is it gold this time? I know it. Wouldn't you share with your poor, destitute brother? Smiling, he reached for the basket. Alma jerked her hand away, feeling the contents shift beneath the lid. He was right. She probably held more gold than either of them would touch in their whole lives if the noise was any indication. There was no way to know for sure. The basket was secured shut with a thick linen wrapping. Her employer would know if she peeked inside. Mind yourself, she said. I'm minding myself. Consider me minded. He held his hands up. As always, he smiled, but she could feel the hurt ringing in his voice. The play-acted hostility was tiring but necessary. All this was for his own good, whether he knew it or not. Guesswork was for those who always had food on the table. It was not profitable for either of them to be asking questions, and she certainly knew better than to tell him anything. Alma had learned the hard way. She tossed her brother a shilling, half a day's work, and hoped he'd see it as her apology. The sun hung in the center of the sky by the time they set sail. This was a phrase she used loosely. Their derelict boat boasted no sail. It moved through the sheer force of something beyond will, the desperate paddling of two people who doubted their ship was fit for a pond, much less the Thames. For once, her brother stayed quiet. The river's stench silenced all thought. Every breath taken over its waters required a conscious effort, likely because the human body naturally does not wish to be poisoned. The weight of the river pulled them down, deeper into the rot. She kept paddling through it all. Charles remained steady in front of her, practicing slow and measured movements. Alma could not match this lulling pace. Regardless of direction, her brother seemed to be working with the flow of the river. Alma could not manage a single pass without resistance. Each movement of her arm felt like she was stirring thick snow. She dreaded this route. Experience could not improve it, and the present company made the experience all the more draining. They had to pass the execution dock. There was simply no way around it. The bodies of 2 men, both pirates, hung in cages, decayed past recognition from the weeks they were left on display. The bloat of their waterlogged bodies had now reached the iron bars, pushing at the rust-bitten cracks. A few more days, and new men would take their place. She could smell them from where she rode, eyes watering from the acrid smell of rotten blood. Without needing to check, she knew her brother's eyes were screwed shut. All the better, the threat was for her, not him. She held her foot against the basket, pressing it to the side of the boat. The rattling of whatever was inside drowned under the sound of her shallow breathing. And that's what I'll read for now.
And if you want to know the rest, buy wherever it's published one day. All right. We're going to move on to our Poetry Fellowship and Award winners. The 2024 Poetry Fellowship recipient is Sophie Farthing, who has, I think, the perfect name for a poet. She submitted a packet of 5 poems that glimmer with vivid imagery. Judge Ashley Mace Havard described her poem, How to Take a Life, as, quote, unforgettable, and went on to say, quote, I admired this poet's skill, the clarity of language, evocation of place, exquisite use of detail, and the disturbing undercurrents beneath the present action of the poems that create such wonderful tension. Sophie is a queer writer living in Columbia. Her poetry is forthcoming or has appeared in outlets including Imposter Journal, Right Hand Pointing, Impossible Archetype, and Anti-Heroin Chic. Her poetry is also featured in the horror anthology It Always Finds Me from Carencia Press. Please welcome to the podium, Sophie Farthing.
Hello. Before I start reading, I wanted to thank Joangela and Jonathan, who I've corresponded with. I hadn't met them until today, but I corresponded with them via email, and they've been so helpful and kind, and I really appreciate all the work that y'all and I know others have put into making this a special event. And I also want to thank the family of Elizabeth Boatwright Coker for supporting these fellowships, which can make a big difference for young artists and writers, and has definitely made a big difference for me. It allows you not only to feel encouraged to keep writing, but it gives you the resources to focus on your writing more. So thank you to them. I don't know if they'll watch this, but thank you. Okay, so I'm going to read 4 of the poems, of the 5 poems that I submitted, and we're going to start with a long one, so I'm going to need y'all to hang in there. Sorry. So I think we're going to do long, short to kind of break it up, okay? This first poem is called Unburial. My mother had warned us away from the dump behind the barn, but in November she put on Daddy's jean jacket, rubber boots, gardening gloves. My mother said, watch for snakes and broken glass. We dragged mildewed carpets from beneath damp forest loam, uncovering the rotted corpses of dish mops, bath mats, sponges, crockery, a decrepit Hoover, a TV with rabbit ears. Because I begged her, my mother said I could keep the salad plate. I scrubbed it at the pump until it shone, red and green chickens in a field of wheat. The salad plate held pride of place in the treehouse, where I served plastic food, orphaned and resourceful, in battered fuchsia-colored crocks. Other girls dressed their Barbies, watched Wizards of Waverly Place, played soccer, and learned ballet. By the hour, I considered the salad plate, dreaming parentless dreams. Years later, on a miserable family trip, I locked eyes with the salad plate in an antique shop in Boone. I had started grad school. I had lost a lot of weight. I was trying to say I was gay, but my mother did not want to hear that. I was trying to say I'm afraid of you, but she did not want to hear that either. I locked eyes with the salad plate. We recognized each other. We didn't speak. The salad plate wore the same green polka dots, the scarlet rooster's feathers, the sheaf of grain. It sported a price tag for $3.99 inked in ballpoint pen. I wore the same frightened face behind my smile. I felt like I was going to cry, but I swallowed it down. For a long moment, we held each other's gaze. Then my mother called me. I walked away. Okay, 1 down, 3 to go. And this one is called Queenie. I never kissed your full lips. My hands never wandered. I was 16, 17, dazed and confused, watching your breasts swing as you danced along the stone wall, telling myself you were ugly, too much body, too much woman. Daddy liked thin girls. I wanted to shrink myself so small no one could see me standing sideways. We dreamed chiffon dreams. In the meadow, home-sewn skirts tugged over our knees. We watched the sun fillet the sky in orange and blue. I held your rough hand, scholar shoulders hunched in thrift store cap sleeves. I gazed into your eyes. We lived like rabbits and lettuces, lapping each other up with thirsty, thick tongues. I never kissed your full lips. You gave me the dolphin beads and the shells, the lace I never wore. Say it, say it. The nest we built us was too small to settle in. Still, I remember my thumb on the fine skin below your forefinger, how you cried on my bed against the wall, how my mother watched me with a strange, embarrassed face, and how you pulled your hand away. I'm sorry. I remember the cricks in our necks, the 100 strokes you used to brush your hair, stumbling awake before dawn, bras and toothbrushes and tampons, molasses in my teeth. When I surprised you on the landing at our first meeting, you lifted me and spun me in your arms, and it had been building in me for a long time, years and years, but you swung me out of orbit. My arrows have not flown straight since, and it never was, and we never did, and we never will. Okay. This is another long one. And it's in very small print, so if I'm squinting, that's why. This one's called Cobbler. In scorched July, between trumpet vines, on the bank above the barn road, we picked blackberries. We wade knee-deep in poison ivy, bobbing and weaving between spider webs, sweating through long-sleeved shirts. My cat stalks smugly through thickets we can't reach. The wind drops. The chickens open parched beaks to pant. Horses stamp at flies, and Queen Anne's lace hangs heavy, crowned heads. We clutch pails still seedy from April's strawberry picking. Our fingers are purple, prickered. Like elephants, we lift first one leg, then the other, considering each step. We call out in whispers, afraid to wake the wasps. I can taste the sun as it ripens the better boys and early girls up the hill. I blink away sweat, and suddenly a fat hornet hovers over my hand, raising the finest hairs on my wrist with the soft kiss of wings. My heart beats in my neck. I stand perfectly still. I do not breathe. I do not think. My tongue swells. My mouth dries out. Empty of sound, my ears prickle and chill, and I hate the sweet sharp tang of every berry I have ever picked. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the things I did. Please forgive me and help me to do better, and please help me to love and serve you in Jesus' name. The hornet passes over my arms, clips my shoulder, hums away. The earth settles on its haunches. The crickets take up their old song. This hornet did not mistake paralysis for disrespect. This hornet thirsts for blackberries, not for fear, but I am too young to know the difference when it wears my father's eyes. I shudder. Ants crawl across my feet. In the garden on the hill, a bumblebee careens unkempt into the heart of a zinnia. Okay, one more. Thank you guys for listening this long. This one's called How to Take a Life. Bait the steel trap with a Pop-Tart, nothing that'll tempt the barn cat. Set the trap by the grain bins in the tack room. Do this on a January evening before a supper of hamburger pie, for God gave unto man dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air. By lamplight sing a hymn. At dawn send the boys to check the traps. I don't know what's wrong with me. I buried Flopsy on my own when I found her dead in the hen coop. I've memorized all the details of Bishop Polycarp's burning at the stake. I should be okay with this, but I'm trembling at the window by the spirea bush. Frost steams from the barn roof. A bantam crows in the yard. The boys are breaking the ice in the horse trough with a hoe. They heft the cage over the edge. I am staring up at the cirrus clouds, running, racing to be somewhere else. I am the only one who sees the souls float upward, iridescent, transparent as a dragonfly's wing. The boys wash up at the kitchen sink. You could see the air bubbles, they holler. You could see its little claws scratching at the bars. My insides turn to chowder. It must have deserved it, I tell myself as I start to shake apart. Daddy says possums are mean. Thank you.
So now that we've heard two fabulous readers, we're going to move on to our last reader for the day. The 2024 Student Award in Poetry goes to Clemson Honors College student Logan Baker. Logan's poetry is abundant with vivid images of nature. Judge Ashley Mace Havard said of Logan, "This poet, whose beautiful work largely addresses the natural world, is incredibly skilled in the use of sound and music, word selection, and awareness of form. The writing is clear, confident, and polished. The water cycle and a short scene from 6 years old are just wonderful." Logan is from Charleston, and at Clemson she is pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Biological Sciences, proving that you don't have to be a starving English major to be a poet. She says she grew up surrounded by the arts and had the opportunity to study creative writing at Charleston County School of the Arts before college. She enjoys blending the science of the natural world with the humanities, and she believes that the two disciplines are fundamentally linked. I think so too. She says writing is a central part of her life and studies, and she hopes to continue exploring biology through the lens of poetry and storytelling. Let's welcome to the podium Logan Baker.
Just be a starving bio grad, but I guess
There is that, I guess.
I don't know if that's any different. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you to the family for supporting this, and thank you to all of the organizers, and thank you all of y'all for being here today. I am really grateful for this opportunity because, as a bio major, I don't necessarily have a lot of opportunities in school to get to do things like this, so it's really exciting. But I'm going to start off with a poem that I think the content will be very familiar to people who live on the coast. It takes me in low areas, places close to water, anytime it rains, and then I'm going to go through 3 more. But I'm starting off with the water cycle. The century floods come yearly, early fall, before the leaves drop. Steady, for a day and night, rain flows down slick rivers of asphalt, sweeps pennies, cigarette butts underground, saturates earth till spill. In houses that crouch on the high ground, sleepers slip through the booms of blown transformers to a place where their neighbors are not slogging through litter-thick water, stacking sandbags and stuffing bath towels under doors. The news says there's school that morning, but half the neighborhood is still, dragging soaked carpeting to the front porch to dry, nailing fence slats back flat, and tracking down thunder-shy calicos. 3 weeks, and this cul-de-sac is all for sale, signs popping up in mildewed grass. They market to those new in town, prime location, low pricing, and nature so close you can almost feel it damp beneath your feet. All right, and this next one I wrote using just words from the book and the title. So, a note to a childhood friend, using only words from Cornerstone's Herbs Guide. It is too late to save the familiar, or imitate warmth, or keep seeds for future growing. Cannot be what you seek, a sacrificial companion, aphid trap nasturtium. Cannot be ornamental, self-contained, easily trained, to twist and turn and sweeten your harsh. We must cut away from each other, dig up these packed close roots and seek separate water. You have to know this arrangement is only sharp angles and drought. Have to know we are too close to the winter freeze to try again. And this one is a short scene from 6 years old. There is a katydid the color of a fresh new leaf, grasping at my finger with its scratchy legs. I have plucked it from a bush, and I am watching it fold apart its wings, escape, and make for a Japanese maple, when a mockingbird, the one that lives in the bush by the mailbox, dives and catches it in its black lacquered beak. My father arrives to this tableau, me, mouth open, bird perched above, dissecting, katydid, dying, dead. He is silent, and then, trying to stop tears, says, "Everybody's gotta eat." This is the beginning of the end, where I realize all at once that every living thing is hungry, that the earth eats, the air eats, and the crawling ground, the worms and molds and Lynn's tiny specks, eats. And I, of course, am hungry too, and feed others. I fed the mockingbird. The mockingbird mother in this lull dips into the brush. My father is relieved. To a nest the two of us cannot see. There, I imagine, she breaks wing from thorax, leg from gut, and fills wide yellow beaks, waiting in the dark this whole time. This is my last one, called The Big Race. I'm strongest in a sprint, always loved that leg and lung burn, beating blood rush, face flush, red glow. A gold medal, I've heard, waits for the first to finish. Silver's a salt soak for sore legs and a slap on the back. We don't talk about bronze. The difference between walk and run is airtime. A splinter of a second where suspension eases the joint jolt and my body is at parabola's peak potential. At a foot strike, my CO2 pulls itself back into the atmosphere with both hands. We are glad to be rid of each other, dead weight. My molecules, me, they're never still or silent. I'm always hearing that low buzz of breakdown, atoms clashing against each other, a million pinballs throwing elbows for a shot at stability. They run dirty, don't seem to get tired like I do. The atoms tell me it's a long race. For the love of God, who shot this starting gun? That big bang really shook everything up, made it hard to find the finish line, always shifting footfall by footfall. I sprint to get nowhere faster, pretend it's a choice. My hydrogen almost remembers the start of the race. She spins past my ears, every stride, dizzy, chain-linked, whispers that first place is a stillness so knife-sharp and frigid that no sun's light can touch the winner.
Well, I think today just further proves, as if we needed more proof, that South Carolina is full of fabulous writers. And Tim Conroy, right? No, I love Tim. But the fact that we've got young folks writing fabulous stuff in an era when a lot of folks are being discouraged from reading gives me hope, and I think gives all of us hope. So we really appreciate your sharing your talents with us, and please don't stop that writing, even if you are a starving biology student. Thank you all for coming. Please do, be aware as well, particularly you guys, that the winter announcements are now on the website, so you guys can share those widely and tell everybody that you're fabulous, because you are. But please do keep up with South Carolina Academy of Authors and all the wonderful things that we try to get done in this state. And thank you for coming this afternoon. Go enjoy the beautiful weather. Jonathan, was there anything you wanted to add?
There are refreshments just on the other side of that door.
That's the most important thing that's been said.
I saved
Thank you all.